We kick off with our first topic in the spotlight today, and Chinese President Xi Jinping will pay a state visit to Switzerland from January the 15th to the 18th. One of the most important items on his agenda is to visit the United Nations office at Geneva at the invitation of UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres. Geneva is one of the most important centers of multilateral diplomacy in the world, and also where China made its global debut on the multilateral diplomatic stage back in the 1950s. For more discussion on China's role in multilateral diplomacy and international humanitarian work, I'm joined live by Michael Moeller, Director General of the United Nations office in Geneva. Mr. Moeller, thank you very much for joining me. Now, we do not actually know too much about what the UN office in Geneva is all about. Why is it so important that President Xi wants to put this item high on his agenda?
Well, thank you for having me, Ms. Liu. It's a pleasure to talk to you again. We miss you here in Geneva.
Thank you.
Well, there's two aspects to what we do here. You have just mentioned the multilateral diplomacy issue. Geneva, because of its brand as a neutral place, as a city of peace, is more and more the venue of choice for people who want to come and talk peace and who want to mediate and make sure that they resolve their differences that they have been trying to resolve through the arms before. So we are seeing many of these. Today, as we speak, the negotiators from the Turkish Cypriot and the Greek Cypriot sides are trying to put an end to the division of an island that has lasted for almost 50 years. And we are hopeful that by the end of this week, we may have a solution to that problem. And of course, it would be a wonderful thing to start the year with. But there's a whole series of other issues that have been discussed here. So on the diplomatic, political front, it's an increasingly important, and has always been, but has have an uptake over the past couple of years as the world becomes more fragmented and in some cases more confrontational. It's always good to have a neutral space where people can come and talk and where they know that there will not be other agendas that are cut across theirs, and where the infrastructure is so honed over many decades that it's an easy place to come to talk. The other aspect that is probably even more important is the fact that Geneva is the operational hub of the international system. There is no place on earth that has more actors that work on more issues that touch as many people as we do here. Every single person on this planet is touched by something that has happened in Geneva, has been discussed, or is being implemented out of Geneva every single day of the year. And that aspect of it is less known. It's something that we're trying to change, but it's particularly important as we have now entered into the period of implementing the Sustainable Development Goals, the collective roadmap that the world has given itself in 2015 for how we're going to tackle all the big problems that the planet is faced with.
Yeah.
So those are two very important reasons why Geneva is a hub, and why it's a very, very welcome sign and event that your president is coming to visit us.
I understand it is the very first time a Chinese president is making his presence at the United Nations office in Geneva. Against the global background we're looking at this moment, what do you think is the signal, is the message his visit wants to give to the world?
From what I understand, and from what I hope certainly, is that China has taken a strategic decision that multilateralism is the way to go, and that China is supporting the United Nations and the multilateral system in as many ways as it can and as strongly as it can. And if that is a message that your president is going to bring when he makes his major statement here on the 18th, then that will be extremely well welcomed, not just by us here who work here, but by the world at large.
Now, the United Nations is faced with, or the world indeed, is faced with many challenges. Actually, in the first ever major speech by the new UN Secretary-General Antonio Gutteres, which was made yesterday, he made the following remarks about a change of role for the United Nations. Let's listen in.
Prevention is not merely a priority, but the priority. If we live up to our responsibilities, we will save lives, reduce suffering, and give hope to millions.
So indeed, Mr. Antonio Guterres there is stressing the importance of preventing crises. And this is something people have been hoping but have not been able to do. And that's why a lot of people in Geneva have been feeling so helpless and frustrated that we're always left to deal with the consequences of crises. Why do you think he has put this prevention of crises into such a priority, and whether it is possible at all to achieve that goal?
Oh,
Let me ask this question once again, if you did not hear me. Yes.
oh, I'm hearing my colleague Mr. Eide cut in on our conversation here. That's just as important.
Yeah, let me let me ask that question again. Do you think it is possible for the United Nations to prevent crises? For instance, in a situation of war, is it possible for the UN to prevent the situation from getting worse? The UN does not have its own army. It is not a sovereign country. How can it do it?
But prevention is first and foremost an action that will prevent the war from happening in the first place. One of the problems is, as you said yourself earlier, that we have been too reactive and not preventive enough. And what you're describing is really reacting to a situation that is happening. What we have to do is to be much smarter and much more focused on attacking the root causes of some of the problems that then escalate into wars later on. And you know, we have the knowledge, we have the experience, the expertise, we have the human capital, the world has the resources to be much more focused and smart in the way that we utilize the different tools that we have. And this is what the Secretary-General is talking about. It's very important that we use those tools in a much more impactful way than we have done until now. And this is, when you talk about the United Nations, it is of course the family of organizations, but it can only be done if it's done in partnership with our member states. Mm-hmm. And that is where the trick is going to be, how to together change the way that we are doing business so that we prevent things from happening. It's like with, you know, the health of people. It's a lot cheaper and a lot smarter, a lot more effective to do prevention than to have to cure the illness once it has exploded.
Yes, you mentioned partnership with members. However, as we speak, we are hearing, for instance, President-elect of the United States, he called the United Nations a club where people have good time, and he vowed to bring changes to the UN, and there are a lot of talks of withdrawing US support to the United Nations. How can the UN do its work better when major countries in the world are threatening to pull out? Well,
first of all, I'm not sure it's major countries in plural, and let's wait and see what happens. You have to remember that the United Nations has been around for quite a while. We have ups and downs. We adapt to changing geopolitical circumstances. And also remember that the United Nations was created to be the table around which everyone gets to sit and discuss, whether you agree or disagree, whether you're rich or poor, big and small. We all have to collectively, in a sense of global solidarity, tackle the problems that are ahead of us. This is particularly true today when the problems are major. And most of them, whether it's climate, whether it's migration, whether it's resource problems, whether it's financial problems, health problems, we cannot solve them alone. We have to do so in collaboration with everybody else. So
thank you very much,
we will see,
Director
and we will
General.
adapt to the changes out there.
Yes, we have to leave it there. Thank you very much for joining us today. That was Mr. Michael Moeller, Director General of the United Nations Office in Geneva. Indeed, multilateralism and the belief in multilateralism is the key to our progress of this world. And we'll continue to touch on this keyword of multilateralism in our next topic in the Spotlight. Stay with us.